When Jasmine Collins spent her last $300 on a decaying trailer in the forgotten town of Pinecrest, she never imagined that the ancient artifacts hidden beneath would reveal humanity's oldest known astronomical observatory, redefine our understanding of prehistoric Native American civilizations, transform her struggling mining community into an international research destination, and ultimately give her family a second chance while forever changing how we view our ancestors' scientific knowledge. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across Pinecrest's dusty streets as Jasmine Collins stared at the dilapidated trailer, wondering if she'd made the biggest mistake of her life. At 34, the former astronomy teacher felt the weight of desperation pressing down on her shoulders. The envelope in her hand contained exactly $300, every penny she had left in the world. "This is really it, Mom?" 8-year-old Lily's voice drifted from their battered Honda Civic, where she sat surrounded by the few possessions they'd managed to keep after the eviction. Her small face peered through the window, eyes wide with uncertainty. Jasmine forced a smile. "It just needs some TLC, sweetie. We'll make it beautiful." The trailer, a 1970s Fleetwood with more rust than paint, sat precariously on uneven ground at the edge of Pinecrest's only trailer park. Nestled in the Appalachian foothills of Tennessee, Pinecrest had once been a thriving coal mining town. Now it was dying a slow death as the mines closed one by one, leaving only those too poor or too stubborn to leave. Jasmine had been neither poor nor stubborn 3 months ago. She'd been a respected teacher at the regional high school, known for getting even the most disinterested students excited about the stars. But life had a way of unraveling without warning. First came the school budget cuts that eliminated her position. Then the medical bills, Lily's unexplained seizures requiring specialists and tests the insurance wouldn't cover. Finally, the eviction notice after falling 3 months behind on rent. $300 cash, like we agreed, Jasmine said, handing the money to Roy Blackburn, the trailer park's owner. Roy was a weathered man in his 60s, his face mapped with the harsh lines of someone who'd seen too much hardship to be surprised by more. Roy counted the bills slowly, his expression unreadable. "Well, it's yours now. Don't expect much. Previous owner left in a hurry about 4 years back." "What happened to them?" Jasmine asked, her teacher's curiosity momentarily overriding her anxiety. Roy shifted uncomfortably. "Old man Peterson. Been here since the trailer park opened in '83. Started talking crazy a few months before he left. Said he heard chanting coming from under the ground at night. Said the land was trying to tell him something." Roy shook his head. "Found him one morning loading his truck at dawn, wild-eyed, saying he couldn't stay another night. Never saw him again." He handed her a single key attached to a faded plastic tag. "Electricity's still connected. Water too, but the pressure's not great. Roof leaks in the back bedroom." "Thank you," Jasmine said, though gratitude was far from what she felt. This was rock bottom, the last stop before homelessness. She'd applied for over 50 jobs, but Pinecrest's economy was as broken as her trailer. As Roy's truck disappeared down the dirt road, Jasmine stood alone in the fading light. The trailer park sat on the outskirts of town, backed by dense Appalachian forest. According to the pamphlet she'd found in the local library, this area had once been part of Cherokee territory before white settlers arrived. The pamphlet mentioned ancient settlements dating back thousands of years, though little archaeological work had been done. History didn't bring jobs or money, so Pinecrest had little interest in its past. "Mom?" Lily called again. "Can I come see?" "Not yet, honey. Let me check it out first." Jasmine approached the trailer cautiously. The metal steps creaked under her weight, threatening to give way. The door stuck at first, then surrendered with a protesting groan that sent a small flock of birds scattering. From a nearby tree, the smell hit her first, musty and stale, with undertones of mildew and something earthier like wet stone. Her phone's flashlight revealed a space frozen in time. Dust-covered furniture sat where the previous owner had left it. A sagging couch, a small kitchen table with 2 chairs, shelves lined with old books and papers. Jasmine moved carefully, testing the floor with each step. In places, it felt dangerously soft. Water damage, probably from the leaking roof Roy had mentioned. The kitchen was basic. An ancient stove, a refrigerator that hummed too loudly, chipped laminate countertops. But it was the papers scattered across the table that caught her attention. Old notebooks, filled with cramped handwriting. She picked one up, brushing away dust. June 10th. Sounds again tonight. Not wind, not animals. Rhythmic, like drumming from below. Called Roy. He thinks I'm crazy. June 15th. Found markings on rocks behind trailer. Strange symbols, circular patterns. Took photos. June 21st. Summer solstice. Loudest tonight. Couldn't sleep. Floor vibrating. Something beneath wants to be found. Jasmine set the notebook down, a chill running through her despite the stuffy air. Just the ramblings of an old man, she told herself, probably suffered from dementia or delusions. She continued her inspection. The bathroom was in surprisingly good shape. The shower worked and the toilet flushed. The smaller bedroom would be perfect for Lily. The master bedroom had a large water stain on the ceiling, but the bed frame seemed sturdy. They could make this work, at least until she found a job. In the hallway, she noticed a section of carpet that seemed more worn than the rest, as if someone had repeatedly paced over the same spot. Curious, she knelt down and pulled back the edge of the carpet. The plywood beneath was darker than the surrounding floor, almost as if it had been replaced at some point. "Mum," Lily called from outside. "Is it okay in there?" "Coming, sweetie." Jasmine let the carpet fall back into place. Time enough to explore later. Her priority now was getting Lily settled. Outside, she helped her daughter from the car. Lily moved slowly, her body still recovering from her latest seizure 3 days ago. At 8, she carried herself with the caution of someone much older, always conscious of her body's betrayals. "It doesn't look so bad," Lily said, as they approached the trailer together. "It looks like an adventure." Jasmine felt her throat tighten. Her daughter's optimism in the face of everything they'd lost was both a blessing and a heartbreak. "That's exactly what it is, baby. Our new adventure." They spent the next 2 hours bringing in their meager possessions: clothes, books, Lily's treasured rock collection, the telescope Jasmine had received as a graduation gift from her own father 20 years ago. By the time they finished, night had fallen completely, revealing a dazzling array of stars overhead. Pinecrest had one advantage over their previous home in the city: no light pollution to dim the celestial display. "Look, Mum," Lily pointed, "upward. You can see the Milky Way." Jasmine smiled, a genuine one this time. That's why ancient people built observatories in places like this, to see the stars clearly. What's an observatory? A place where people study the sky. The earliest ones were just circles of stones that helped track the sun and stars' movements. Native Americans built them thousands of years ago, right here in these mountains. Lily's eyes widened. Like Stonehenge. Similar, yes. People have always been drawn to the stars, trying to understand them. After a simple dinner of peanut butter sandwiches, all they could afford until Jasmine's food stamp application was processed, they prepared for bed. Jasmine had made up Lily's bed with her favorite space-themed sheets, a small attempt at normalcy in their new circumstances. "Mom," Lily said as Jasmine tucked her in, "do you hear that?" Jasmine paused, listening. At first, she heard nothing beyond the normal night sounds: crickets, the distant hoot of an owl, the creaking of the trailer as it settled. Then, just at the edge of perception, something else. A faint, rhythmic sound, almost like a heartbeat, coming from beneath the floor. "It's just the trailer settling," Jasmine said, though she wasn't convinced. Old buildings make all kinds of noises. It sounds like drums, Lily whispered, her eyes drifting closed, like someone's having a party underground. Jasmine kissed her daughter's forehead. Sleep tight, stargazer. Tomorrow we'll explore our new kingdom. After Lily fell asleep, Jasmine returned to the hallway, drawn to that worn patch of carpet. The drumming sound had faded, but her curiosity hadn't. She pulled back the carpet again, examining the plywood more carefully. It was definitely newer than the surrounding floor, and as she knocked on it, the sound was different, hollower. Somehow, back in the kitchen, she found a toolbox under the sink. Returning to the hallway with a screwdriver and flashlight, she began prying at the edges of the plywood. It came up more easily than she expected, revealing a square opening about 3 feet across. Beneath wasn't dirt or crawl space as she'd anticipated, but a set of rough stone steps descending into darkness. Jasmine's heart raced. A cellar? The trailer wasn't built to have a basement. This had to be something older, something that predated the trailer park entirely. Peterson's notebook suddenly seemed less like the ramblings of a disturbed mind. She shone her flashlight down the steps. They appeared to be carved directly into the bedrock, worn smooth by countless feet over what must have been centuries. The air rising from below was cool and carried that same earthy scent she'd noticed when first entering the trailer, only stronger now, like soil after rain, like ancient stone. Common sense told her to replace the plywood, call Roy in the morning, maybe even the authorities. But years of teaching astronomy had instilled in her a deep respect for ancient knowledge and a curiosity about how our ancestors understood the cosmos. What if this was connected to the Native American settlements, mentioned in the pamphlet? Just a quick look, she whispered to herself, checking once more that Lily was still asleep. The first step was cool beneath her bare feet, the second slightly damp. By the third, she was fully committed, descending into the earth beneath her. $300 trailer. Guided only by her phone's flashlight and an archaeologist's curiosity she'd never had the chance to pursue professionally. 8 steps down, the stairway opened into a chamber that stole her breath away. The room was circular, about 15 feet in diameter, with walls of fitted stone that couldn't possibly be natural. Her light revealed images carved into these walls. Spirals, crescent moons, starburst patterns that she immediately recognized as astronomical symbols. But it was the floor that made her legs go weak. A perfect map of the night sky had been created in stone with different colored rocks, forming constellations. At the center stood a stone pedestal with a depression that would catch light from above when the opening was clear. An observation chamber, she breathed, her archaeological knowledge from undergraduate courses rushing back. A prehistoric observatory. The drumming sound came again, though she felt it more than heard it, a vibration through the stone, rhythmic and purposeful. She moved to the walls, running her fingers over the carvings. Some depicted human figures observing. Celestial events, comets, eclipses, meteor showers. Others showed what appeared to be calendar systems, tracking lunar cycles. In one section, she found markings that could only be a writing system, though not one she recognized from her limited study of Native American languages. The symbols were intricate, flowing like water or stars in motion. As her light traced the circumference of the room, she discovered 4 tunnels leading outward in the cardinal directions. Each was roughly the height of an adult, lined with the same fitted stone as the main chamber. "This isn't just an observatory," she whispered to the empty chamber. "It's a complex." The implications were staggering. Nothing like this had ever been documented in the Appalachian region. Most archaeologists believed the prehistoric peoples of this area, while sophisticated in many ways, didn't create subterranean structures of this complexity. A noise from above made her jump, Lily turning in her sleep. Jasmine suddenly remembered her responsibilities. Whatever this discovery meant, she couldn't explore further tonight, not with her daughter alone in a strange place. As she climbed back up the stone steps, her mind raced with possibilities. If authenticated, this site could rewrite archaeological understanding of pre-Columbian Native American civilizations. But more immediately, it could mean salvation for her and Lily. Archaeological discoveries of this magnitude attracted funding, researchers, possibly even tourism. Back in the hallway, she carefully replaced the plywood and carpet, then sat at the kitchen table, pulling Peterson's notebooks toward her with new respect. She read until dawn, piecing together the old man's experiences. He'd discovered the chamber accidentally when the floor collapsed under him during a heavy rain. Initially fascinated, he'd begun researching the site, taking photographs, making notes. But as time passed, his entries became increasingly disturbed. He described dreams of ancient ceremonies, of star watchers chanting beneath the moon. He became convinced the site was trying to communicate with him, especially during solstices and equinoxes when the drumming sounds intensified. The final entry, dated just days before his departure, read simply, "They chose this place because the veil is thin here. The stars speak more clearly. I understand now why they built it, but I cannot stay. Some knowledge isn't meant for us." Udun, as the first light of dawn filtered through the trailer's dirty windows, Jasmine set the notebooks aside and made a decision. Unlike Peterson, she wouldn't run from this discovery. She would approach it methodically, scientifically, document everything before bringing in experts. But first, she needed to secure their immediate future. With new determination, she opened her laptop and began drafting emails to former colleagues in the archaeology department, where she'd studied before switching to education. One name stood out, Dr. Eleanor Harding, her undergraduate advisor, who specialized in archaeoastronomy, the study of how ancient cultures understood and used the stars. "Found something you need to see," she wrote, attaching photos she'd taken in the chamber. "Possibly prehistoric observatory beneath my property in Appalachia, requesting confidential consultation." As Lily stirred in her bedroom, Jasmine closed the laptop and began preparing breakfast, the last of their bread made into toast. Today they would clean the trailer, make it livable. Tonight, after Lily slept, she would return to the chamber with better equipment. The digital camera she'd used in her teaching days, measuring tools, a sketchbook. "Morning, Mom," Lily said, appearing in the hallway, her hair tousled from sleep. "I had the coolest dream about stars dancing under the ground." Jasmine hugged her daughter close, wondering how much to share. For now, she decided, the chamber would remain her secret. Until she understood what they were dealing with, she wouldn't risk getting Lily's hopes up, or exposing her to whatever had frightened Peterson away. "What's the plan today?" Lily asked, munching on her toast. "Operation Home Improvement," Jasmine replied with forced cheerfulness. "We're going to make this place shine." They spent the morning cleaning, scrubbing away years of dust and neglect. Jasmine was constantly aware of the secret beneath their feet, her eyes repeatedly drawn to that worn patch of carpet. By afternoon, the trailer had transformed from depressing to merely shabby, with clean surfaces and windows that actually let in light. As Jasmine hung their few pictures on the walls, her phone buzzed with an email notification. Dr. Harding had responded, "Jasmine, intriguing images, symbols consistent with Mississippian culture, but configuration is unprecedented. Cannot determine authenticity from photos alone. Coming to assess personally. Can arrive tomorrow. Send address. Do not share with others until verified. Archaeological looting is rampant. Eleanor." Jasmine stared at the screen, heart pounding. Dr. Harding was coming here tomorrow. The validation she'd hoped for was happening faster than she'd imagined possible. A knock at the door startled her. She opened it to find Roy Blackburn standing there, looking uncomfortable. "Just checking how you're settling in," he said, though his eyes darted past her to scan the trailer's interior. "We're good, thanks," Jasmine replied, trying to sound casual. "Place just needed some cleaning." Roy nodded, still looking past her. "Found anything unusual?" The question sent a chill through her. Unusual how? "Peterson left some crazy notebooks. Thought you might have found them." "Just some old papers," she said carefully. "Nothing important." Roy's eyes narrowed slightly. "Well, if you find anything strange, let me know. This land has history. Some folks around here take that seriously." After he left, Jasmine stood at the window, watching him drive away. His interest seemed more than casual landlord concern. Did he know about the chamber? Had Peterson told him more than he'd admitted? That night, after Lily fell asleep, Jasmine returned to the hidden stairway. Better prepared this time with a proper flashlight, camera, measuring tape, and notebook, she descended into the chamber with the methodical approach of a scientist. For 3 hours, she documented everything, measuring the room's dimensions, photographing every carving, sketching the star map on the floor. The 4 tunnels leading outward remained unexplored. She wasn't ready to venture further alone. The drumming sensation came and went, sometimes so faint she questioned whether she felt it at all, other times strong enough to vibrate through her bones. She noticed it intensified when she touched certain symbols on the walls, as if responding to human contact. When she finally emerged, exhausted but exhilarated, it was past midnight. She carefully secured the entrance and fell into bed, her mind spinning with questions. Who had built this place? How old was it? And why had it remained undiscovered by archaeologists? Morning brought new complications. As Jasmine was preparing Lily's breakfast, another knock came at the door. This time it wasn't Roy, but a middle-aged man in a business suit, his luxury SUV looking wildly out of place in the trailer park. "Ms. Collins, I'm Michael Davenport, representing Horizon Development." He offered a business card. "I understand you've recently acquired this property." Jasmine took the card cautiously. "Just the trailer, not the land." Davenport smiled, revealing 2 perfect teeth. "Actually, I'd like to discuss purchasing your trailer. Horizon is developing a resort complex in this area, and we're acquiring all properties in the trailer park. We're prepared to offer a very generous relocation package." "How generous?" Jasmine asked, financial desperation momentarily overriding her wariness. $15,000, Davenport said smoothly. "More than enough to secure better housing elsewhere. The offer expires in 48 hours. After he left, promising to return tomorrow for her answer, Jasmine sank into a kitchen chair. $15,000 would solve their immediate problems. Rent deposit on a decent apartment, bills paid, breathing room to find work. A month ago she would have accepted instantly. But now, with the chamber beneath their feet and Dr. Harding arriving today, everything had changed. If the discovery was as significant as she believed, its archaeological value far exceeded $15,000. More importantly, it represented cultural heritage that deserved protection, not destruction beneath a resort complex. Dr. Eleanor Harding arrived just after noon, her compact frame vibrating with the same energy Jasmine remembered from university days. At 62, Eleanor remained one of the most respected archaeoastronomers in North America, known for her work documenting Native American astronomical sites. "Show me everything," she said, after brief greetings, her eyes already scanning the trailer as if she could see through the floor. Jasmine led her to the hidden entrance, watching anxiously as her former mentor descended the stone steps. Eleanor's sharp intake of breath upon entering the chamber confirmed what Jasmine had hoped. This discovery was extraordinary. "My God!" Eleanor whispered, her flashlight beam dancing across the stone star map. "This is unprecedented." She moved methodically around the chamber, examining carvings, running fingers along the fitted stones, occasionally muttering notes into a small recorder. "The construction method alone dates this to at least 1000 CE, she said. "Mississippian culture, almost certainly, but this level of astronomical sophistication—" She shook her head in wonder. "The star map shows constellations in positions consistent with approximately 1200 CE, and these tunnels—" She peered down one of the 4 passageways. "They appear to align with cardinal directions, possibly designed to track solstice and equinox alignments." "Is it important?" Jasmine asked, though she already knew the answer. Eleanor turned to her, eyes shining. "Jasmine, this is potentially the most significant archaeoastronomical find in eastern North America. Ever." She gestured around the chamber. "This isn't just an isolated observation point. It's a complex, systematic astronomical observatory predating European contact. It demonstrates mathematical and astronomical knowledge that rewrites our understanding of these cultures." She took Jasmine's hands. "You need to understand something. This site must be protected. Immediately. Archaeological looting is epidemic in this region if word gets out before proper protocols are in place." "There's already interest in the land," Jasmine admitted, explaining about Davenport and horizon development. Eleanor's expression hardened. "Of course there is. Listen to me carefully. Don't accept any offers. Don't tell anyone else about this discovery. I'm going to make some calls. Reach out to the State Archaeological Office, the Native American Heritage Commission, and some colleagues I trust implicitly. We need to secure emergency heritage protection for this site." "What about Lily and me?" Jasmine asked. "This trailer was my last resort. We have nowhere else to go." Eleanor's expression softened. "Archaeological discoveries of this magnitude come with funding opportunities, research grants. There will be options, I promise you, but we must move quickly." That evening, after Eleanor left to make her calls, Jasmine sat with Lily on their small porch, watching the stars emerge. She told her daughter a simplified version of the discovery, that they might have something historically important under their trailer that scientists wanted to study. "Like buried treasure?" Lily asked, eyes wide. "Better than treasure," Jasmine replied. "Knowledge. Understanding of how people long ago looked at the same stars we're seeing now. Are we going to be okay, Mom?" The question came softly, heavy with awareness beyond Lily's years. Jasmine pulled her daughter close. "Yes, Stargazer. I think we are." That night, the drumming beneath the floor grew stronger than ever. Jasmine lay awake, feeling the vibrations through her mattress, wondering if the site somehow knew its long isolation was ending. Peterson's final words echoed in her mind. "They chose this place because the veil is thin here. The stars speak more clearly." Morning brought Davenport back, his smile slightly less confident when Jasmine firmly declined his offer. "I should mention," he said, voice hardening, "that Horizon has already purchased the land rights from Mr. Blackburn. This trailer park will be demolished within 6 months, with or without your cooperation." "I understand," Jasmine replied calmly, "but my answer is still no." After he left, she called Eleanor, who arrived within the hour accompanied by a stern-looking woman she introduced as Meredith Kingsley from the State Archaeological Office. "We need to move fast," Eleanor explained. "I've filed emergency paperwork for heritage protection, but these things take time. Meanwhile, Ms. Kingsley needs to make an official assessment." The 3 women descended into the chamber where Meredith's professional detachment quickly dissolved into astonishment. "This is extraordinary," she admitted, photographing everything. "Preliminary assessment confirms archaeological significance warranting immediate protection." She turned to Jasmine. "Ms. Collins, as the discoverer and current resident, you have certain rights regarding this site. The state can issue an emergency protection order preventing any development or disturbance. However, proper excavation and study will require more comprehensive arrangements. By afternoon, the quiet trailer had become the center of carefully controlled activity. A small team of archaeologists arrived to begin preliminary documentation. Security measures were established to protect the site. Jasmine and Lily watched in amazement as their $300 trailer transformed into the epicenter of what Eleanor was already calling one of the most significant archaeological discoveries of the decade. That evening, as the experts continued their work below, Jasmine sat with Eleanor and Meredith at the kitchen table, discussing next steps. "The Native American Heritage Commission has been notified," Meredith explained. "Representatives from the Cherokee Nation and other potentially affiliated tribes will be arriving to consult on the site's protection and study. The university is prepared to offer you a position as site liaison," Eleanor added. "It comes with housing allowance, salary, and benefits. Your astronomy background makes you uniquely qualified." "And horizon development?" Jasmine asked. Meredith smiled thinly. "They've been served with papers informing them of the site's protected status. Their resort plans will need significant modification." Later, after everyone had gone except the security team stationed outside, Jasmine explained the developments to Lily. "Does this mean we can stay, Mom?" "Yes, but in a different way. We'll be helping the scientists understand what's under our trailer, and you'll be able to see all your doctors again." Lily's face lit up. "So buying this trailer wasn't a mistake?" Jasmine looked around at what had seemed like rock bottom just days ago. "No, stargazer, it might have been the best decision I ever made." That night, for the first time since they'd arrived, the mysterious drumming beneath the floor fell silent. Instead, as Jasmine drifted toward sleep, she heard, or perhaps felt, something different. A humming like distant voices singing in harmony with the stars. "The veil is thin here," she whispered into the darkness, understanding Peterson's words at last. This place had been chosen 1,000 years ago because it offered unique connection to the cosmos. Now, that connection had found new guardians. Outside, the Appalachian night sky blazed with stars, the same patterns ancient astronomers had mapped in stone beneath their feet. Jasmine Collins, who had spent her last $300 on what seemed like the end of hope, now lay at the beginning of something far greater, a bridge between past and future, between earth and sky, between desperation and purpose. Tomorrow would bring journalists, more researchers, tribal representatives, and the beginning of a new chapter for Pinecrest. But tonight, in the quiet darkness, a single mother and her daughter slept peacefully above one of humanity's oldest observatories, their futures as bright as the stars themselves. 6 weeks had transformed Jasmine Collins's life beyond recognition. Where once she had stood alone, staring at a decrepit trailer with $300 in her hand and desperation in her heart, she now found herself at the center of archaeological history in the making. The Pinecrest Observatory, as it was now officially called, had become the most significant archaeo-astronomical discovery in eastern North America of the 21st century. Morning sunlight streamed through the trailer windows, now cleaned and fitted, with proper curtains. Jasmine sat at the kitchen table, the same rickety surface where she'd first read Peterson's notebooks, reviewing the preliminary research report she would present at today's press conference. Outside, the formerly quiet trailer park hummed with purposeful activity. "Mum, have you seen my blue notebook, the one with all my star drawings?" Lily appeared in the doorway, her cheeks flushed with health. Regular medical care had worked wonders. She hadn't had a seizure in nearly a month. "Check your backpack, stargazer," Jasmine replied, smiling at the transformation in her daughter. Lily had blossomed in these weeks, appointed as the unofficial junior site historian by Eleanor, complete with a laminated badge that she wore proudly whenever researchers were present. Through the window, Jasmine could see the protective dome that now covered their trailer, and an area extending 50 feet in all directions. Constructed with emergency preservation funds, the structure protected the site from the elements while archaeological work continued. Beyond it stood a small village of research tents, security checkpoints, and the beginnings of a proper visitor center. A knock interrupted her thoughts. Eleanor Harding entered without waiting for a response, her energy seemingly multiplied since the discovery. "The tribal representatives are gathering for the morning blessing," she announced, "and the team from National Geographic has arrived for the documentary shoot." Jasmine nodded, gathering her papers. The press conference would officially announce what the archaeological community had been buzzing about for weeks: the discovery of a subterranean complex dating to approximately 1100 to 1300 CE, created by ancestors of the Mississippian culture, with astronomical precision that rivaled ancient sites in Central America and Europe. "How are the tunnels coming along?" she asked, following Eleanor outside. "The northern passage is fully mapped now," Eleanor replied excitedly. "It extends exactly 328 feet and emerges at a point where the summer solstice sun aligns perfectly with Polaris. The precision is extraordinary. They must have spent generations refining their calculations." Outside, Jasmine greeted Sarah Two Feathers, the Cherokee Nation's representative who had become a friend and mentor over the past weeks. The Cherokee and several other tribal nations had joined forces to ensure the site was protected and studied with appropriate cultural sensitivity. "Today is a good day," Sarah said, clasping Jasmine's hands. "The ancestors are pleased their knowledge is being honored, not exploited." Together, they joined the gathering circle, where tribal elders conducted a blessing ceremony each morning. Before work began, Jasmine had initially felt like an intruder during these ceremonies, but Sarah had gently corrected her. "You were called to find this place. That makes you part of its story." The blessing complete, Jasmine moved toward the main research tent where Dr. Marcus Chen, the project's lead archaeologist from the Smithsonian, was examining the latest findings. A series of carved tablets, discovered in the Eastern Passage. "These are revolutionary," he told her, carefully turning one of the stone tablets. "They show a calendar system that tracked not just solar and lunar cycles, but also the movements of Venus and possibly even Mars, the mathematical knowledge required." He shook his head in wonder. "Do we know what the drumming is yet?" Jasmine asked. The mysterious vibrations that had first drawn her attention still occurred, especially during astronomical alignments. Marcus shook his head. "We have theories. The chambers may function as resonance chambers, amplifying natural Earth vibrations. Or there could be underground water sources that intensify during certain gravitational alignments. What's clear is that the builders understood acoustic properties and incorporated them deliberately." As they discussed the findings, a commotion at the security perimeter caught their attention. Roy Blackburn stood arguing with a guard, his weathered face flushed with anger. Beside him stood Michael Davenport, looking incongruously polished in his business suit, despite the dusty surroundings. "I'll handle this," Jasmine said, walking over to the checkpoint. "I've got a right to be here," Roy was saying. "This is still my land, protection order or not." "Mr. Blackburn," Jasmine greeted him calmly, "we have a protocol for visitors. If you'd scheduled—" "Don't need to schedule visits to my own property," he snapped. "Just came to tell you Horizon's lawyers found a loophole in your protection order. Only covers the immediate site, not the surrounding area." Davenport stepped forward, his smile tight. "We're breaking ground on the resort next month. The portion directly above your discovery will be preserved, of course. We're even incorporating it as a feature." The ancient observatory experience has a nice ring to it, don't you think? Jasmine felt the blood drain from her face. This site isn't a tourist attraction. It's a sacred place of scientific and cultural significance. It's also prime real estate, Davenport replied smoothly. We're prepared to be reasonable. A partnership, perhaps? Horizon Development would handle the commercial aspects while your team continues the research. Everyone wins. The tribal nations would never agree, Jasmine said. They've been consulted, Davenport claimed. Our proposal includes a cultural heritage center with appropriate acknowledgements, very respectful. Before Jasmine could respond, Sarah Twofeathers appeared at her side. Interesting, she said, her voice dangerously calm. Our tribal council received no such consultation. Davenport faltered slightly. Well, the formal outreach is scheduled for next week. I'm simply providing advance notice as a courtesy. Mr. Davenport, Sarah replied, I suggest you familiarize yourself with the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act before your next visit. This site falls under federal protection beyond the state order. After they departed, with reluctant promises to continue the conversation through proper channels, Jasmine turned to Sarah, her heart racing. Can they really build around us? They're testing boundaries, Sarah replied. Unfortunately, they're right about one thing. The emergency protection only covers the confirmed archaeological features. We need to expedite the full federal designation. The incident cast a shadow over the morning, but there was no time to dwell on it. The press conference was scheduled for noon, and journalists from around the world had already begun arriving. This public announcement would change everything, bringing attention that would help protect the site, but also intensify commercial interest. Back in the trailer, which now served as both home and administrative headquarters, Jasmine helped Lily prepare for her role in the presentation. At Eleanor's suggestion, Lily would explain the basic astronomical principles of the site to humanize the scientific information. Remember, you don't have to memorize everything, Jasmine said, straightening her daughter's collar. Just explain how the ancient astronomers use the stars like you use your star chart. Lily nodded solemnly. No, Mom. Dr. Eleanor says sometimes children explain things better because we don't make it too complicated. Jasmine smiled, recognizing the truth in that statement. In just 6 weeks, Lily had absorbed enough astronomy and archaeology to impress even the specialized researchers. The site had awakened something in her, a connection to both science and history that transcended her age. At precisely noon, Jasmine stood before a forest of microphones, camera lenses focused on her face, and began the official announcement. Behind her, enlarged photographs displayed the underground observatory in all its intricate beauty. 6 weeks ago, I spent my last $300 on what I thought was just a dilapidated trailer, she began, her teacher's voice steady despite her nerves. What I discovered beneath it has forever changed our understanding of ancient North American civilizations. Duh. She outlined the findings: the central chamber with its precise star map, the 4 directional tunnels aligned to astronomical events, the stone tablets recording celestial observations spanning hundreds of years. This site represents not just archaeological significance, but living cultural heritage, she continued, gesturing to Sarah and the other tribal representatives. The knowledge preserved here belongs to all humanity, but especially to the descendants of those who created it. When Lily took her turn at the microphones, explaining with childlike clarity how the ancient astronomers had used the underground chambers to track stars and planets, the crowd of hardened journalists visibly softened. Her final words, "They looked at the same stars we see, and they understood them so well they could build this amazing place under the ground," resonated perfectly. The questions afterward came in a barrage. How old was the site exactly? Who had built it? How had it remained undiscovered for so long? What would happen to it now? Dr. Chen handled the scientific inquiries, explaining that radiocarbon dating placed construction between 1100 to 1300 CE, coinciding with the height of Mississippian culture. Sarah addressed the cultural significance, emphasizing that multiple tribal nations were working together to ensure proper protocols for study and preservation. When asked about Horizon Development's plans, Eleanor stepped forward. "We are currently finalizing application for National Historic Landmark status, which would extend protection to the entire surrounding area. This site represents a scientific and cultural treasure that transcends commercial interests." The press conference concluded with an announcement that controlled public access would begin next month through guided tours, with all proceeds supporting continued research and eventual establishment of an educational center. As the journalists dispersed, Jasmine felt both exhilarated and exhausted. The public announcement meant there was no turning back. For better or worse, the Pinecrest Observatory was now world news. That evening, as researchers packed up for the day and security shifts changed, Jasmine sat with Eleanor, Sarah, and Dr. Chen in the trailer's small living room, strategizing their next steps. "Horizon isn't going away," Eleanor warned. "The resort project represents millions in potential revenue. They'll fight the expanded protection." "We need to complete the mapping of all 4 tunnels," Dr. Chen added. "If they extend beyond the currently protected area, it strengthens our case for expanded boundaries." Sarah nodded thoughtfully. "The tribal legal team is preparing documentation for the National Register application. But we should also consider the international angle. UNESCO World Heritage status would provide additional protection." As they talked, Lily appeared in her pajamas, clutching a book. "Mom, can I show them my discovery?" The adults exchanged amused glances. Lily's discoveries were usually charming observations about the site from a child's perspective, but something in her expression seemed different tonight. "What have you found, stargazer?" Jasmine asked. Lily opened her book, Peterson's weather-beaten almanac, that she'd adopted as a journal. Inside, she'd taped rubbings of several symbols from the chamber walls. "I was reading about star patterns in Dr. Eleanor's book, and I noticed something," she explained, turning to a page showing the Pleiades constellation. "This symbol from the West Passage looks exactly like how the Pleiades appeared during an eclipse that happened in 1176. Dr. Chen leaned forward, suddenly alert. "May I see that?" He compared Lily's rubbing to astronomical charts on his tablet, his expression growing increasingly animated. "She's right. This isn't just any representation of the Pleiades. It's showing a specific celestial event, a lunar occultation of the Pleiades that occurred in 1176 CE. He looked up in amazement. This could be a precise date marker for when the observatory was either begun or completed. Eleanor was already pulling up reference materials on her laptop. If we can confirm this interpretation, it would provide the most accurate dating of any prehistoric North American site. "Lily, you may have just made a significant contribution to archaeology." The 8-year-old beamed with pride, but seemed unsurprised by the adult's reaction. "The people who built this place were really good at watching stars. I just paid attention, like they did." After Lily went to bed, the conversation returned to the looming threat from Horizon. "There's something we're missing about Roy Blackburn's involvement," Jasmine said. "He seemed almost personally offended by the protection order." "I've been researching local land records," Sarah offered. "The trailer park property has changed hands multiple times, but it's been in the Blackburn family since the 1920s. Before, in that it was part of a larger parcel owned by the Peterson family, possibly ancestors of your previous tenant." So Peterson might have had family connections to this land going back generations, Jasmine mused. What if knowledge of the site has been passed down? Not the specifics, but enough to know something was here. Eleanor nodded slowly. It would explain why the site remained undisturbed, despite decades of development in the region. Someone was protecting it, however indirectly. Tomorrow I'll visit the county records office, Sarah decided. There may be more to the land, history than we've uncovered. The next morning broke with unexpected developments. Sarah arrived early, her expression grave. Roy Blackburn is at the courthouse filing injunctions against our research permits. And I've discovered something troubling in the county archives. Horizon began purchasing surrounding parcels 2 years ago, long before your discovery. They've been planning this development with specific knowledge of this area. Before Jasmine could process this information, one of the security guards approached. Ms. Collins, there's a situation at the perimeter. Construction equipment is being positioned along the boundary line. Outside, the confrontation was already underway. Heavy machinery, bulldozers and excavators, lined the edge of the protected zone. Workers were marking boundaries with bright orange spray paint. Davenport stood supervising, looking smugly confident. "What's happening here?" Jasmine demanded, approaching the boundary line. "Preliminary site preparation," Davenport replied, casually. "All perfectly legal. We're respecting the protected zone, staying exactly 1 foot outside the boundary. The vibrations from your equipment could damage the underground structures," Dr. Chen protested, hurrying to join them. "We've conducted appropriate impact studies," Davenport countered. "Our geologists assure us the bedrock will insulate your precious ruins." As they argued, a remarkable scene unfolded. Vehicles began arriving, dozens, then hundreds of them. Tribal members from multiple nations, local residents, university students, and environmental activists poured onto the site, forming a human chain around the protected perimeter. Sarah stepped forward, her voice carrying across the increasingly crowded space. "This site was created by our ancestors to understand the cosmos. It has survived nearly 1,000 years. It will not be damaged by corporate greed today." News. Crews, still in the area from yesterday's press conference, captured the standoff. Jasmine watched in amazement as the impromptu protest grew, with supporters arriving hourly as word spread through social media. By afternoon, the construction equipment stood idle, surrounded by a peaceful but determined human barrier. As the day progressed, Jasmine found herself giving impromptu interviews, explaining the site's significance to the growing crowd. Lily joined her, the junior historian badge prominent on her chest, describing with infectious enthusiasm how ancient astronomers had built their observatory beneath the Earth because it's like being inside the stars themselves. By sunset, the confrontation had transformed into something like a festival. Musicians played, elders told stories of celestial connections in their traditions, and astronomers set up telescopes for public viewing. The contrast couldn't have been clearer. On one side, idle machinery representing commercial development. On the other, a celebration of science, heritage, and shared human curiosity about the cosmos. As darkness fell, Jasmine stood with Lily, Eleanor, and Sarah at the entrance to the underground chamber. Below them, the ancient star map glowed softly under carefully positioned preservation lighting, the stone constellations mirroring the real stars now visible above. "They won't give up easily," Eleanor cautioned, nodding toward where Davenport huddled with lawyers beside his luxury SUV. "Neither will we," Sarah replied. She handed Jasmine a folder of documents. "These arrived by courier an hour ago. The State Historical Commission has fast-tracked our application. Effective immediately, the protected zone has been expanded to include a half-mile buffer in all directions." Jasmine opened the folder with trembling hands. "This means... it means Horizon can't break ground tomorrow as planned," Sarah confirmed. They'll challenge it, of course, but each delay works in our favor as we compile evidence for the national designation. That night, after the crowds thinned and researchers returned to their meticulous documentation, Jasmine sat with Lily on their trailer steps, gazing at the stars that had guided human curiosity for millennia. "Mum, are we going to be okay?" Lily asked, echoing the question she'd posed weeks earlier when their future had seemed so precarious. Jasmine hugged her daughter close. "Yes, stargazer, we're going to be more than okay." Below them, the ancient observatory continued its silent vigil. The mysterious drumming sounds, now understood as a complex acoustic phenomenon caused by wind moving through the precisely engineered tunnels. 1,000-year-old music that played only when celestial alignments were perfect. Peterson's notebooks, once dismissed as the ramblings of a disturbed mind, had been proven remarkably accurate. He had indeed heard voices from below, the resonance of ancient engineering designed to translate cosmic movements into earthly vibrations. Later that night, alone in the central chamber, Jasmine placed her hands on the stone star map, feeling the faint vibrations that connected her to those ancient astronomers. They had built this place with patience and precision, understanding cosmic cycles that would outlast their own brief lives. Their work had remained hidden for centuries, waiting for the right moment and the right person to reveal its wisdom. "I hear you," she whispered to the silent stones, "and I promise your knowledge will be preserved." From desperate single mother spending her last $300 on a dilapidated trailer to guardian of an archaeological treasure, the transformation seemed impossible. Yet as the stars wheeled overhead in the same patterns the ancient astronomers had so carefully tracked, Jasmine Collins understood that she had not found this place by accident. Just as the observatory had been positioned with celestial precision, her arrival had been a matter of perfect timing, a cosmic alignment of need and purpose, desperation and discovery. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, legal battles, scientific questions, logistical problems. But tonight, in the quiet darkness beneath the Appalachian stars, a 1,000-year connection between past and present hummed with possibility. The ancient astronomers had built their observatory to understand their place in the cosmos. Now Jasmine and Lily had found their own place in that continuing story. Not ending, but evolution. Not loss, but legacy. 3 months after Jasmine Collins discovered the ancient observatory beneath her trailer, Pinecrest had transformed from a dying mining town into an international research hub. The expanded protection zone now encompassed not just the trailer park, but nearly a square mile of surrounding forest, secured through an unprecedented partnership between tribal nations, academic institutions, and the National Park Service. Autumn painted the Appalachian foothills in brilliant gold and crimson as Jasmine stood before the newly completed Visitor Education Center, preparing to cut the ceremonial ribbon. No longer dressed in the threadbare clothes of desperate poverty, she wore a professional outfit that reflected her new position as executive director of the Pinecrest Ancient Observatory Foundation. "Ready," Eleanor whispered beside her, nodding toward the assembled crowd of dignitaries, tribal representatives, and media. "Almost can't believe it's real," Jasmine replied, taking in the scene before her. The contrast with her first day in Pinecrest couldn't have been more stark. Where once she'd stood alone in the rain, clutching $300 in an envelope, she now faced hundreds of supporters. Where she'd once feared not being able to feed Lily, she now managed a multi-million-dollar research and education budget. "Mom, they're waiting." Lily tugged at her sleeve, resplendent in her custom junior astronomer uniform designed by university students who'd adopted her as their mascot. Jasmine squeezed her daughter's hand and stepped forward to the microphone. 3 months ago, I was a desperate single mother with no job, no home, and no hope. Today, we stand at the entrance to one of humanity's most remarkable achievements, a testament to ancient ingenuity that connects us across 1,000 years. As she spoke, her eyes found familiar faces in the crowd. Sarah Two Feathers, whose tireless advocacy had been crucial in securing tribal cooperation and protection. Dr. Chen, whose scientific credibility had helped convince skeptical authorities, and surprisingly, old Roy Blackburn standing at the back, his weathered face, unreadable but his presence significant. This center represents more than just a tourist attraction or research facility, Jasmine continued. It embodies our commitment to preserving knowledge that transcends cultures and generations. The ancient astronomers who built this observatory understood something profound, that by studying the stars, we discover not just the patterns of the cosmos, but our own place within it. With Lily's help, she cut the ribbon, officially opening the facility that had been fast-tracked through construction using emergency preservation funds. Inside, interactive exhibits explained the astronomical significance of the underground. Complex, while cultural displays honored the indigenous knowledge systems that had created it. The crowd filed in, exclaiming over the center's crown jewel, a full-scale replica of the central chamber, allowing visitors to experience the space without risking damage to the actual archaeological site. Only researchers with special clearance could access the original chambers, now carefully monitored for preservation. As Jasmine guided VIPs through the exhibits, a museum staff member approached with urgency. "Director Collins, there's a situation in the research tent. Dr. Chen says, you need to see this immediately." Excusing herself, Jasmine hurried across the complex to the main research pavilion where the archaeological team processed findings. Inside, she found Dr. Chen standing over a stone tablet recently excavated from the Eastern Passage. "What is it, Marcus?" she asked, noting his unusually agitated expression. "We've been translating the symbol sequences," he explained, pointing to the tablet where intricate carvings formed patterns, unlike the astronomical records they'd previously documented. "This isn't a star chart. It's a map." Eleanor joined them, peering at the symbols. "A map of what?" "Other sites," Marcus said simply. "Look at this recurring symbol. We thought it represented Polaris, but in context, it appears to be marking locations. If we're interpreting correctly, there are at least 7 other underground observatories in the Appalachian region alone." Jasmine felt the implications immediately. An entire network of sites. "A prehistoric scientific community," Marcus nodded, "collaborating, sharing data, refining observations over generations. Nothing like this has ever been documented in North America." Before they could discuss further, Sarah Two Feathers entered with a stern-faced man in a national park. "Service uniform? We have a problem," she announced without preamble. "Horizon Development has filed an emergency appeal challenging our protection zone. They're claiming we artificially expanded the boundaries without sufficient archaeological evidence." "That's absurd," Eleanor protested. "The 4 directional tunnels alone justify the current perimeter." "They're arguing that the tunnels themselves aren't technically structures, but simple excavations," the Park Service official explained. "Their lawyers are good. They found a regulatory loophole that distinguishes between built environments and modified natural features. The hearing is tomorrow," Sarah added. "If we can't prove the extended site contains significant constructed elements, we could lose the buffer zone, which means construction could begin right up to the edge of the main chamber." Jasmine looked at the tablet with its mysterious map. What if we could prove the Pinecrest Observatory is just one node in a network? That would establish the broader cultural landscape value. "We'd need physical evidence of another site within our protection zone," Marcus said thoughtfully. "According to this map, there should be something approximately 2 miles northwest of here." That's within our current boundaries, but just barely, the park official noted. Eleanor was already gathering equipment. We need to organize a survey team immediately. If this map is accurate, finding a second site would fundamentally change the preservation equation. As the experts launched into action, Jasmine found herself momentarily alone, staring at the tablet that might represent salvation or disappointment. 1,000 years ago, ancient astronomers had mapped their knowledge, perhaps never imagining it would one day protect their creation from destruction. The survey team assembled quickly. Jasmine, Eleanor, Marcus, 2 graduate students with ground-penetrating radar equipment, and unexpectedly Roy Blackburn, who appeared as they were preparing to depart. "Need a guide," he said gruffly when questioned. "Know these woods better than anyone." They set out immediately, following both the ancient map and modern GPS coordinates. The autumn forest was challenging terrain, dense underbrush, steep ravines, fallen trees creating natural obstacles. Roy led them confidently, occasionally consulting with Marcus about the tablet's directional indicators. "Blackburn family's been here since the 1850s, Roy volunteered as they hiked. "My great-granddaddy bought this land cheap after the Cherokee. Removal always told us kids to respect certain places in these woods, never explained why." "You knew something was here all along," Jasmine realized. Roy shrugged. "Knew there were places we didn't disturb, family tradition. Peterson knew too. He was my mother's cousin. When he started hearing the sounds, talking about voices underground, it scared him, made him think he was going crazy, just like his father before him." "Why didn't you tell us this before?" Eleanor asked. "Some knowledge belongs to family," Roy replied simply, "until it doesn't anymore." After nearly 2 hours of hiking, they reached a seemingly unremarkable hillside covered with native rhododendron. Roy stopped, pointing to subtle irregularities in the terrain, a depression here, an unnaturally straight edge there. "My grandfather called this Listening Hill," he said. "Told us never to dig here." The graduate students immediately set up their ground-penetrating radar equipment, scanning the hillside in methodical passes. Within 20 minutes, they had their answer. The screens showed unmistakable evidence of underground structures, similar to the chambers beneath Jasmine's. "Trailer, it's here," Marcus confirmed, excitement overriding his usual scientific caution. Another observatory, exactly where the map indicated. Eleanor was already photographing everything, establishing documentation for the hearing. "This proves the cultural landscape extends beyond the primary site. The entire network must be preserved as a single entity." As the team worked to document their discovery, Jasmine found herself standing beside Roy, both of them gazing at the unremarkable hillside that concealed ancient wonders. "Why help us now?" she asked quietly. "You sold the land to Horizon. You tried to block our research." Roy was silent for a long moment. "My daddy and his daddy before him kept these places safe without really knowing why. Just tradition. Then Horizon came with their money, made it all seem foolish. Superstition. Standing in the way of progress." He sighed heavily. "But seeing what you found, understanding what it really is. Some things matter more than money." Jasmine studied his weathered face, seeing the conflict there. "You could have made millions from the resort development. Already took their money," he admitted. "But watching you fight for this place, seeing how it changed that little girl of yours, made me remember something my grandfather said. We don't own this land. We just mined it for a while. By sunset, they had gathered enough evidence to strengthen their case significantly. The discovery of a second observatory site within the protected zone transformed their legal position from defending arbitrary boundaries to preserving an integrated archaeological landscape." As they hiked back through the darkening forest, Jasmine found herself reflecting on Roy's words. The ancient astronomers hadn't built their observatories as isolated monuments, but as connected centers of learning. A prehistoric scientific community that understood knowledge was meant to be shared, across distance and time. The hearing the next morning began as a tense legal confrontation, but transformed dramatically once Marcus presented the new evidence. Horizon's lawyers, confronted with ground-penetrating radar images and the translated map showing the network of sites, struggled to maintain their challenge. "Your Honor," their lead attorney argued desperately, "a second potential site doesn't automatically validate the entire protection zone." The judge, a no-nonsense woman with decades of experience in cultural heritage cases, removed her glasses. "Counselor, what we have here is clear evidence of a prehistoric scientific network spanning a significant geographical area. The protection zone, if anything, appears too limited rather than too extensive." When she ruled to uphold the protection boundaries, expanding them to encompass the newly discovered second site, the courtroom erupted in quiet celebration. Horizon's representatives departed immediately, already on phones with corporate headquarters. Outside the courthouse, reporters gathered for statements. Jasmine stood with Sarah Two Feathers and Eleanor as tribal representatives conducted a blessing ceremony of thanksgiving. The legal victory marked a turning point, not just for the Pinecrest Observatory, but potentially for archaeological preservation throughout the region. "This isn't over," Eleanor cautioned as they returned to the site. "Horizon will regroup, try different tactics." "But we've bought crucial time," Sarah noted. "The National Historic Landmark designation is moving forward, and UNESCO has expressed interest in World Heritage consideration." Back at the visitor center, Jasmine found Lily conducting an impromptu tour for a group of school children, explaining how the ancient astronomers had used the underground chambers to track celestial movements. They built their special star rooms underground because it helped them see the sky better, Lily was saying, her confidence remarkable for an 8-year-old. "When you're underground, the stars show up super clear through special openings. It's like being inside a giant telescope." Watching her daughter, once so fragile and uncertain, now flourishing as the site's youngest educator, Jasmine felt a wave of gratitude that transcended their personal transformation. The ancient observatory had saved them, yes, but more importantly, it had given Lily purpose, a connection to something larger than herself. That evening, after the visitors had departed and researchers settled into their nighttime documentation tasks, Jasmine received an unexpected call from the university's development office. "The Lumina Foundation has reviewed your proposal," the officer explained. "They're prepared to offer a $10 million endowment for the Pinecrest Indigenous Astronomy Initiative, with specific funding for educational programs and continued research." Jasmine steadied herself against her desk, the figure momentarily incomprehensible. From counting pennies for Lily's medication to managing millions for archaeological preservation, the reversal seemed almost mythical in its completeness. After the call, she walked through the quiet visitor center to the replica chamber where families had gathered earlier to learn about ancient astronomy. The reproduction star map glowed softly under specialized lighting, creating the same celestial patterns the original astronomers had so carefully documented. "We did it," Eleanor said, finding her there. "Permanent protection, research funding, educational outreach, everything we hoped for." "And Horizon?" Jasmine asked. "Just heard from Sarah. They're withdrawing completely, selling their land, holdings to the Conservation Trust. Apparently, the negative publicity was affecting their other developments." The news should have brought pure celebration, but Jasmine felt a strange melancholy. "It seems almost too perfect," she admitted. 3 months ago, I was facing homelessness. Now this." Eleanor smiled knowingly. "You're experiencing what archaeologists call discovery dissonance, when finding something significant disrupts your entire understanding of the world." The ancient astronomers likely felt it too, when their observations revealed patterns they couldn't immediately comprehend. Later that night, unable to sleep despite the day's victories, Jasmine descended into the actual observatory chamber, a privilege reserved for senior researchers. In the dim preservation lighting, the ancient star map seemed to pulse with its own internal energy, the stone constellations connecting her to astronomers who had stood in this same space a millennium earlier. The mysterious drumming sound began softly, then intensified, the acoustic phenomenon now understood as air moving through precisely engineered channels that amplified certain frequencies when astronomical alignments occurred. Tonight was the autumnal equinox, a significant date in the ancient calendar. As the vibrations surrounded her, Jasmine placed her hand on the central observation stone. The ancient astronomers had created this place to understand cosmic patterns that transcended human lifespans. They had built not for immediate reward, but for knowledge that would outlast them by centuries. "I understand now," she whispered to the empty chamber. The words felt right, though she couldn't have explained exactly what understanding had come to her. Something about cycles, perhaps. How desperation could transform to purpose, how endings contained beginnings, how knowledge preserved with patience would eventually find its moment of revelation. The next morning brought new developments that reinforced this sense of cosmic timing. Dr. Chen burst into her office, clutching his tablet with uncharacteristic excitement. "We've completed the carbon dating on materials from the second site," he announced. "It's older than the main observatory, by at least 200 years. "What does that mean for our understanding?" Jasmine asked. "It suggests these weren't constructed simultaneously, but evolved over generations, a scientific tradition passed down and refined over centuries." His eyes gleamed with academic excitement. "And there's more. Using the map and satellite imagery, we've identified potential locations for 5 additional sites across 3 states. The network is vaster than we imagined." By mid-morning, the news had spread throughout the research community. What had begun as a single remarkable discovery was evolving into something that would rewrite archaeological understanding of pre-Columbian North America. Not isolated achievements, but a coordinated scientific community spanning generations and geography, all focused on celestial observation and mathematical precision that rivaled ancient sites worldwide. As researchers excitedly planned expanded surveys, Jasmine found herself drawn to the educational aspects of their work. The visitor center was already welcoming school groups daily, but she envisioned something more. A comprehensive program, connecting indigenous astronomical knowledge with contemporary science education. Meeting with Sarah Twofeathers and educational consultants, she outlined her vision. The ancient astronomers built this place as both observatory and classroom. We should honor that tradition by making education central to everything we do here. The resulting proposal, the Stargazers program, would bring students from across the country to Pinecrest, with special emphasis on indigenous youth and underserved communities. Using the ancient observatory as inspiration, participants would learn both traditional celestial knowledge and modern astronomy, bridging cultures and generations. When Lily heard about the program, she immediately appointed herself Junior Director of Stargazers, creating her own curriculum suggestions with the earnest determination only an 8-year-old could maintain. "Kids should learn about the stars, the same way I did," she insisted, showing Jasmine her hand-drawn lesson plans. First by looking up and wondering, then by learning the stories, then by understanding the science. Jasmine hugged her daughter, marveling at how the child who had once been so physically fragile now overflowed with confidence and purpose. Lily's seizures had diminished significantly under proper medical care, but Jasmine suspected the improvement wasn't just pharmaceutical. The ancient observatory had given her daughter something medicine alone couldn't provide: a sense of belonging to something vast and meaningful. That afternoon, as Jasmine prepared for a meeting with UNESCO representatives interested in the site's World Heritage potential, Roy Blackburn appeared at her office door. "Got something for you," he said, placing a small wooden box on her desk. "Found it among my grandfather's things. Thought it might belong here now." Inside the box lay a hand-carved stone pendant, a miniature replica of the central chamber's star map, worn smooth by generations of handling. "Family legend says it was made by the original people who knew about the place's underground," Roy explained awkwardly. "Been passed down father to son, with instructions to protect the sacred hills." Jasmine lifted the pendant carefully, noting its remarkable precision. "Your family were the guardians all along, weren't you? Even without fully understanding what you were protecting." Roy nodded, uncharacteristically emotional. "Think maybe that was the point. Didn't need to understand everything to know it. Mattered." As he turned to leave, Jasmine called after him. "The visitor center needs a local history coordinator, someone who knows this land and its stories. The position comes with a good salary and benefits." Roy paused, considering. "Might know someone suitable," he said finally, the ghost of a smile crossing his weathered face. 3 months after spending her last $300 on a trailer that seemed like rock bottom, Jasmine Collins stood at the center of a transformation larger than she could have imagined. The ancient observatory had saved her family from destitution, yes, but more importantly, it had connected them to an intellectual and spiritual legacy that spanned 1,000 years. That evening, she and Lily sat on their new porch, the trailer, now renovated and expanded into a comfortable home that served as both residence and administrative hub for the site. Above them, the same stars that had guided the ancient astronomers sparkled in the autumn sky. "Mom," Lily said, looking up from her astronomy homework, "do you think the people who built the star chambers knew we would find them someday?" Jasmine considered the question with the seriousness it deserved. "I think they built something to last, because knowledge matters. They couldn't know who would find it, but they must have hoped someone would, someone who would understand and protect what they created." "Like how you found it when we needed a home," Lily observed with a child's perfect clarity. "And now we're helping other people learn about the stars too." Jasmine hugged her daughter close, reflecting on how their desperate last chance had transformed into limitless possibility. The ancient astronomers had tracked cosmic cycles with patience and precision, understanding that patterns too vast for one lifetime still mattered. In their own way, Jasmine and Lily had become part of that tradition, guardians of knowledge that connected past to future through the eternal language of the stars. As if acknowledging this connection, the faint sound of drumming rose from beneath their feet, the ancient observatory singing its celestial song as it had for 1,000 years, no longer hidden, no longer silent, but resonating with renewed purpose across the bridged centuries. 20 years had passed since Jasmine Collins spent her last $300 on a rusted trailer in the forgotten town of Pinecrest. On this crisp autumn morning, she stood on the observation platform overlooking what had become one of the world's most significant archaeological and educational complexes. The International Center for Indigenous Astronomy now covered nearly 5 square miles of protected land, its sleek, modern buildings harmonizing with the ancient landscape rather than dominating it. "Professor Collins, they're ready for you," a young assistant called, tablet in hand. "The symposium delegates are all seated." Jasmine nodded, taking one last moment to absorb the panoramic view. The transformation still amazed her, even after all these years. Where once had stood a dilapidated trailer park, now rose a complex that welcomed researchers and visitors from across the globe. The ancient observatory that had saved her and Lily from destitution had grown into something far beyond archaeological. Significance. It had become a bridge between cultures, between past and future, between earth and sky. She made her way to the Grand Assembly Hall, its architecture inspired by the circular design of the original underground chamber. Today marked the opening of the decennial symposium on archaeoastronomy, bringing together 200 experts from 6 continents to share discoveries from similar sites worldwide. The timing was deliberate, exactly 20 years since the discovery that had transformed not just Jasmine's life, but archaeological understanding across North America. As she entered through a side door, Jasmine caught sight of familiar faces. In the front row, Eleanor Harding, now in her 80s, but still sharp-minded, her pioneering work on the Pinecrest network having redefined archaeoastronomy as a discipline. Sarah Two Feathers, whose advocacy had expanded into international indigenous rights, serving now on UNESCO's Cultural Heritage Committee. And Dr. Marcus Chen, whose initial skepticism had transformed into career-defining commitment to understanding the ancient astronomers' mathematical precision. But it was the symposium chair who brought the warmest smile to Jasmine's face. Dr. Lily Collins, at 28, had fulfilled the promise of the curious child who had once drawn star maps in crayon. With dual doctorates in astrophysics and cultural anthropology, she had become the leading expert on integrating indigenous astronomical knowledge with contemporary science. The seizures that had once threatened her development were now so rare as to be almost forgotten. "Distinguished colleagues," Lily began, her confident voice carrying through the hall, "20 years ago, my mother spent our last $300 on what seemed like a desperate gamble, a dilapidated trailer in a dying town. What she found beneath that trailer has transformed our understanding of prehistoric North American science and connected ancient wisdom to future discovery." The audience applauded as Jasmine took the podium, embracing her daughter briefly. Before turning to address the assembly, "When I descended those stone steps for the first time," she began, "I was simply a desperate mother seeking shelter. I could never have imagined that moment would reshape archaeological understanding across 3 continents." She activated the holographic display, revealing a 3-dimensional map of what had become known as the ancestral astronomical network. 47 confirmed sites spanning the Appalachian region, each constructed between 900–1400 CE, each precisely aligned with celestial phenomena. What began as a single remarkable discovery has revealed itself as one of humanity's greatest scientific achievements, Jasmine continued. These ancient astronomers created an integrated research community spanning generations and geography, all without written language as we understand it, all without modern technology. The hologram shifted to show the mathematical precision encoded in the observatory designs, proportional relationships that captured planetary movements, solar cycles, and even the precession of equinoxes over vast time periods. But today, I want to focus not just on what these ancient scientists achieved, but on why their work matters to us now. Jasmine surveyed the audience, seeing not just archaeologists and astronomers, but tribal youth, international students, and government officials. The ancestral astronomers understood something we often forget, that knowledge transcends individual lifetimes, that scientific observation requires patience across generations, that understanding our place in the cosmos connects us to both past and future. The next hour passed as Jasmine outlined the Pinecrest model, how archaeological discovery could serve as catalyst for educational innovation, cultural healing, and community revitalization. What had begun as desperate shelter had spawned a methodology now replicated at similar sites worldwide. After her presentation, as delegates broke into specialized discussion groups, Jasmine found herself momentarily alone on the hall's circular balcony. Below, researchers from diverse backgrounds exchanged ideas with the animation that came from shared intellectual passion. Indigenous knowledge keepers discussed celestial observations with NASA scientists. Tribal youth demonstrated star navigation. Techniques to university professors. "Quite the legacy you've built," came a gravelly voice behind her. Jasmine turned to find Roy Blackburn, now in his 80s, leaning on a handcrafted walking stick. As local heritage director, he had transformed from reluctant participant to passionate advocate, his knowledge of regional folklore proving invaluable to researchers. "We built it together," Jasmine corrected gently. "All of us." Roy shook, his head, eyes fixed on the vibrant exchange below. "Never would have happened without you. That first day, when you arrived with nothing but determination and that little girl." He cleared his throat. "You saw possibility where everyone else just saw an old trailer." Before Jasmine could respond, they were joined by Eleanor and Sarah, both moving more slowly these days, but no less formidable in their presence. "The UNESCO delegation is impressed," Sarah reported. "They're discussing expanding the World Heritage designation to include all 47 sites as an integrated cultural landscape. And the funding committee has approved the expansion of the Indigenous Youth Astronomy Program," Eleanor added. "Full scholarships for 100 additional students next year." Jasmine absorbed this news with quiet satisfaction. The Ancient Astronomers Initiative, providing educational opportunities for Indigenous youth and underserved communities, had become the center's most transformative program. Over 15 years, it had sent more than 2,000 young people to universities worldwide, many returning as researchers, educators, and cultural leaders. "Not bad for a desperate gamble on a $300 trailer," she murmured. "It was never about the trailer," Eleanor said wisely. "It was about seeing beyond immediate circumstances to larger possibility." The afternoon brought a special session that Jasmine had been anticipating for months. In the Celestial Mapping Laboratory, researchers from 12 countries unveiled the results of the Decennial Sky Reconstruction Project, a painstaking effort to recreate exactly what the night sky had looked like during the peak construction period of the Pinecrest Observatory. Using advanced astronomical modeling, they had calculated precise star positions from 1100–1300 CE, then compared these with the stone star maps in the underground chambers. The correlation was astonishing. The ancient astronomers had captured celestial positions with accuracy that approached modern measurements, all without telescopes or computers. The precision suggests systematic observation over multiple generations, explained Dr. Kamala Sharma, lead astrophysicist on the project. These weren't casual sky watchers. They were scientists following methodical protocols, refining their understanding over centuries. Even more remarkable was the discovery that certain unexplained elements in the stone maps appeared to record celestial phenomena invisible to the naked eye, suggesting observational techniques beyond what archaeologists had believed possible for prehistoric cultures. "We're exploring the possibility that they may have developed simple optical devices using natural crystals," Dr. Sharma continued. "Or perhaps methods of atmospheric observation during specific weather conditions that enhanced visibility of celestial bodies." As the technical presentation concluded, the laboratory darkened completely. Above the assembled researchers, the ceiling transformed into a perfect recreation of the night sky, as it would have appeared above Pinecrest in the year 1176 CE, the date inscribed in the central chamber and now confirmed as the observatory's completion. In the reverent silence that followed, Jasmine felt a profound connection to those ancient astronomers who had stood in darkness, patiently tracking the cosmos, building understanding that would transcend their own brief lifetimes. They could never have known that a desperate mother and her daughter would stumble upon their work nearly 1,000 years later, or that their scientific legacy would eventually reach across the planet. The evening brought a celebration unlike any Pinecrest had seen before. On the great lawn between the research complex and the visitor center, thousands gathered for the Festival of Stars, a combination of scientific presentations, cultural performances, and astronomical observation that had become the center's annual highlight. As darkness fell, tribal representatives from nations across North America conducted a unity ceremony, acknowledging the ancestral scientists whose work had remained hidden for centuries. Elders spoke of how the Pinecrest discovery had helped heal historical wounds by validating indigenous scientific traditions long dismissed by Western academia. 20 years ago, our ancient astronomers were rediscovered, said Robert Runningbear, chairman of the Multi-Tribal Heritage Council. But more importantly, their wisdom was recognized, not as primitive superstition, but as sophisticated science that sometimes surpassed contemporary understanding. Musical performances followed, traditional songs interwoven with contemporary, compositions inspired by the cosmic harmony detected in the ancient chambers. Acoustical engineers had discovered that the underground observatory's mysterious drumming sounds followed mathematical patterns that corresponded to planetary movements, a music of the spheres encoded in stone. As the performances concluded, attention shifted to the night sky itself. Hundreds of telescopes had been set up across the grounds, allowing visitors to observe the same celestial bodies that had fascinated the ancient astronomers. Professional. Researchers guided observations, while students from the Indigenous Astronomy program explained the cultural significance of various constellations. Jasmine moved through the crowd, occasionally stopped by visitors expressing gratitude or asking questions. The center welcomed over 500,000 people annually now, from serious researchers to families experiencing their first dark sky environment. Pinecrest had transformed from an economic casualty of declining coal mining into a thriving community centered around education, research, and cultural heritage. Near the original trailer, now preserved as a museum exhibit, Jasmine found Lily conducting an impromptu workshop with a group of teenagers from the reservation school. Using a combination of traditional stories and astrophysical principles, she was explaining how ancient observers had tracked Venus through its celestial cycles. The morning star was particularly important, Lily was saying, her hands tracing patterns in the air that the students followed with rapt attention. Its movements were recorded with mathematical precision in the Eastern Passage. But they didn't just track its position, they understood its relationship to agricultural cycles, to seasonal changes, to the entire cosmic order. Watching her daughter, once a frightened child with unpredictable seizures, now a confident scientist bridging worlds, Jasmine felt the full weight of their journey. 20 years ago, spending her last $300 had seemed like surrender to desperation. Instead, it had been the first step toward purpose beyond anything she could have imagined. Later that night, after most visitors had departed and only researchers remained conducting observations, Jasmine made her way to the original underground chamber. Unlike the replicas built for educational purposes, the actual archaeological site remained carefully preserved, accessible only to authorized personnel for specific research purposes. The stone steps had been reinforced, the passage stabilized, but otherwise the chamber remained as she had found it that first night. A perfect astronomical calendar carved from stone, recording celestial knowledge that had outlasted its creators by centuries. As she descended into the familiar space, Jasmine found she wasn't alone. Lily was already there, sitting quietly beside the central observation stone, notebook open but untouched. "I thought I might find you here," Jasmine said softly, joining her daughter in the chamber's peaceful stillness. 20 years ago tonight," Lily replied, her voice hushed with reverence. "You carried me inside sleeping, set me on a blanket, and then discovered this place. You remember that? Not directly, but I've heard the story so many times, seen the recreation in the museum. It feels like memory. Lily traced her fingers along the stone star map. I've been thinking about parallel journeys, the ancient astronomers building this place over generations, and our journey from that desperate night to now. The soft vibration began beneath them, the mysterious acoustic phenomenon that had first drawn Jasmine's attention decades earlier. After years of research, scientists had determined that the sound resulted from wind moving through precisely engineered tunnels, amplified during specific astronomical alignments. "They're singing tonight," Lily murmured, using the phrase that had become common among researchers to describe the observatory's acoustic properties. "Special occasion," Jasmine smiled. 20 years of rediscovery deserves acknowledgement. As they sat together in companionable silence, Jasmine reflected on how the ancient observatory had transformed not just archaeological understanding, but the trajectory of countless lives. The dying town of Pinecrest had been reborn as an international research center. Indigenous knowledge that had been marginalized for centuries now informed cutting-edge science. Young people from communities lacking educational opportunities now studied the cosmos using both ancient wisdom and modern technology. "Mom," Lily said after a while, "do you ever wonder if we were meant to find this place? If somehow, across 1,000 years, the ancient astronomers built this for us to discover when we needed it most?" It was a question Jasmine had considered many times over the decades. "I think they built for discovery without knowing who the discoverers would be," she answered carefully. "They created something meant to outlast them, to speak across time to whoever would listen. Like a message in a bottle," Lily nodded, "cast into the ocean of time. And we were fortunate enough to find it washing up on our shore when we were drowning," Jasmine added, completing the metaphor. From desperate single mother to internationally respected director of a World Heritage Site, the transformation seemed almost mythical in its completeness. Yet Jasmine knew the true miracle wasn't her personal journey, but the ancient knowledge that had survived centuries of obscurity to emerge exactly when humanity needed its wisdom most. In an age of short-sighted thinking and immediate gratification, the ancient astronomers offered a powerful counter-narrative. Scientific observation conducted over generations, knowledge preserved for centuries, cosmic understanding that required patience beyond individual lifespans. "We should get back," Lily said eventually, closing her notebook. "Early symposium sessions tomorrow." As they climbed the stone steps, emerging into the cool night air, the expanse of stars overhead mirrored the stone map they'd left below. The ancient astronomers had captured this celestial pattern with remarkable accuracy, connecting Earth to sky through patient observation and precise recording. Across the complex, light still glowed in research facilities where scientists from around the world collaborated on understanding the astronomical knowledge encoded in the ancient observatory. In dormitories, students from the indigenous astronomy program dreamed of stars and heritage and future discoveries. In the nearby town, locals whose families had struggled through economic decline now found purpose in supporting the center's global mission. The following morning brought perhaps the most meaningful event of the symposium, the formal induction of 20 new students into the Celestial Guardians program. Selected from indigenous communities and underserved regions worldwide, these young people would receive comprehensive education combining traditional astronomical knowledge with contemporary astrophysics. In the central gathering hall, decorated with representations of star patterns from cultures across the globe, Jasmine stood with Lily and the program mentors as the students entered in procession. Each carried a symbol from their cultural tradition. Star, Blankets, celestial navigation tools, ceremonial objects used for astronomical observation. 20 years ago, Jasmine began, addressing the students directly. An ancient observatory hidden beneath the earth revealed itself at exactly the moment when it was most needed. Today, you begin a journey that connects you to those ancient astronomers who understood that knowledge transcends individual lifetimes. She gestured to the hall's circular skylight, where morning sun created a precise illumination pattern on the floor, a design that mirrored the central chamber's observation stone. The ancient astronomers who built the Pinecrest Observatory didn't work for immediate reward or recognition. They created something meant to outlast them, to preserve knowledge for generations yet unborn. As celestial guardians, you continue their legacy, not just by studying the stars, but by understanding your place within cosmic cycles larger than any single human life. Each student stepped forward to receive a pendant, recreations of the stone star map Roy Blackburn had discovered among his grandfather's possessions decades earlier. Then Lily, as program director, administered the Celestial Guardian Oath, a promise to preserve knowledge with integrity, to bridge traditional wisdom with contemporary science, to recognize that true understanding required both patience and humility. As the ceremony concluded, Jasmine found herself standing with Eleanor, Sarah, and Roy, the original team that had fought to protect the ancient observatory when it was merely a remarkable archaeological site rather than a global center for astronomical research and cultural revitalization. "Did you ever imagine this?" Sarah asked, gesturing to the vibrant activity surrounding them. Researchers consulting with tribal elders, students demonstrating astronomical alignment tools, government officials discussing expansion of the heritage protection zone. "Not even in my wildest dreams," Jasmine admitted. "That first night I was just grateful to have a roof over our heads." "Sometimes the universe provides exactly what's needed," Eleanor observed philosophically. "Not what we think we need, but what actually serves our deeper purpose." The final event of the symposium brought everyone together on the great lawn as twilight deepened into night. The Ancient Harmony Orchestra, musicians using both traditional instruments and replicas of the acoustic technologies found in the observatory chambers, performed a composition that translated celestial movements into sound. As the music played, the night sky revealed itself in all its splendor. The same stars the ancient astronomers had tracked with such precision, the same cosmic patterns they had recorded in stone, the same eternal cycles that connected past to present to future. Jasmine sat with Lily, surrounded by the community that had grown from that desperate night 20 years earlier. Researchers who had dedicated careers to understanding the ancient knowledge, students who found purpose in continuing its legacy, tribal members whose heritage had been validated, local residents whose lives had been transformed by the center's presence. From her last $300 spent on what seemed like rock bottom, Jasmine Collins had discovered not just archaeological treasure, but cosmic perspective, the understanding that human lives, like celestial bodies, moved in cycles of darkness and light, that what appeared to be ending might actually be beginning. That purpose often revealed itself in unexpected ways. As the stars wheeled overhead in their ancient patterns, Jasmine thought of the unknown astronomers who had carved those same patterns into stone 1,000 years earlier. They could never have imagined the desperate mother who would stumble upon their work, or how their patient observations would create ripples of transformation across centuries and continents. Yet they had built with such precision, such foresight, such faith in future discovery. Perhaps that was their greatest wisdom, understanding that knowledge preserved with integrity would eventually find those who needed it most, connecting generations across the vast expanse of time through the eternal language of the stars. The ancient observatory had saved Jasmine and Lily in their moment of greatest need. Now, 20 years later, it continued saving others, students finding direction, researchers discovering purpose, communities reconnecting with heritage, humanity remembering its place within the cosmic order. As the music reached its crescendo, perfectly aligned with celestial movements overhead, Jasmine Collins, once a desperate single mother, now guardian of ancient wisdom, felt the fullness of the cycle completed. What had begun with her last $300 had expanded into limitless possibility, just as the universe itself expanded from singular beginning into infinite potential. The ancient astronomers had understood this truth, encoding it in stone beneath the earth. Tonight, beneath the same stars they had so patiently observed, their wisdom lived again, not as historical artifact, but as living inspiration, bridging past and future through the miraculous present where all transformation became possible.